Well, welcome to this lesson titled Terrorism, Recognizing the Signs. Terrorism is a disturbing and growing trend. But what is terrorism? Let's talk about the definition. Terrorism is the use of force or violence against persons or property in violation of the criminal laws of the United States for purposes of intimidation, coercion, or ransom. Terrorists use threats to create fear among the public, to try and convince citizens that their government is powerless in preventing terrorism, and to get publicity for their cause. There's different types of terrorism, and actually all acts of terrorism are crimes. But the FBI categorizes terrorism in the United States in two distinct categories. And those categories are domestic terrorism and international terrorism. Let's talk about the difference. Domestic terrorism involves groups or individuals whose terrorist activity are directed at elements of our government or population without foreign participation. So this would be the homegrown terrorist here in the United States. The most prolific domestic terrorism act was in 1995 in the Oklahoma City bombing. On the morning of April 19th, 1995, an American, Timothy McVeigh, parked a rental truck with explosives in front of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, and at 9:02 a.m. a massive explosion occurred, which sheared the entire north side of the building, killing 168 people. This was a horrible crime and a horrible act of terrorism. And you can see the devastation here in the photo. Very sad. So international terrorism involves groups or individuals whose terrorist activities are foreign-based and or directed by countries or groups outside of the United States. Now, obviously, the most famous terrorist attack on America were the 9/11 attacks in the year 2001. September 11, 2001, 19 militants associated with the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airliners and carried out suicide attacks against targets in the United States. 2 of the planes were flown into the towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. A 3rd plane hit the Pentagon just outside Washington, D.C., and the 4th plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. Over 3,000 Americans and other people were killed during the attacks in New York City and Washington, D.C., including more than 400 police officers and firefighters. This was a huge act of international terrorism. I know many people will not forget the morning of 9/11 for the rest of their lives, as I know I will not. So let's talk about the characteristics of terrorism. Targets are well planned and may include places such as international airports, large populated cities, international events, high-profile landmarks like the White House and the Twin Towers in New York City, and resort facilities, many of those filled with tourists around the world. Now, terrorists almost always stage and rehearse their plan up to 3 times before actually committing an act of terrorism. This is a huge opportunity where you can make a difference as a protection professional. Now, on many previous attacks in the past, perpetrators were observed by security personnel and even recorded by surveillance cameras. But sadly, since the terrorists never entered the actual target buildings, security personnel ignored their activities. What a mistake. The security industry learned some tough lessons from these events and have become more focused on recognizing signs of terrorism. So what are the goals of a terrorist? Well, they're not very friendly. Terrorists want high body counts. More people that die, the better. They want maximum damage, whether it's to a loss of life or a symbolic building or whatever the case may be. They want media coverage. They want to exploit this tremendously so that the world can see how powerful they are. They want sympathy to their cause and the root of their act of aggression. And they always want 100% success when they perform an act of terrorism. So the security personnel's role is very important. You can do a lot of things to minimize the efforts of a terrorist with good preparation. Remember, you are on the front line. You may be the first to arrive, size up, assess, and react. This is what we call observe and report in the business. And you may also be the first to provide details of a terrorist incident to others. Your role is crucial in preventing terrorism. So let's talk about some specifics, the 4 Ds of counterterrorism, as we like to call them. Detour. Detour terrorism by hardening the target and making it difficult to be successful. This includes checking everyone's identification, packages, and every vehicle before they enter into a secured area. Conduct patrols that are not routine or predictable. Keep the terrorists guessing about where you go and when. Delay. The use of barriers, locks, access control, and vehicle access can go a long way in delaying an act of terrorism. Deny. Deny terrorists the use of widespread panic and media leverage, which they always attempt to exploit. And finally, detect. Detecting terrorist activity can be accomplished by literally paying attention to those things around you and their activity. Use of binoculars and CCTV systems can greatly improve your success when looking for unusual activity of a terrorist nature. Let's talk about the 7 signs of terrorism. These are 7 very good points that will help you recognize terrorism. Number 1, surveillance. Someone recording or monitoring activities in a particular location is usually done for a purpose. This may include the use of a camera, a still camera, or a video camera, taking notes, drawing diagrams or maps, or using other vision-enhancing devices. Number 2, elicitation. People or organizations attempting to gain information about military operations, capabilities, or people and schedules. Elicitation attempts may be made by mail, fax, telephone, or actually in person. Be cognizant of these attempts. Number 3, the test of security. This one is important. Any attempt to measure a reaction time to security breaches or to penetrate a physical security barrier or a procedure in order to assess the strengths and weaknesses of a particular security team. This is where you need to be alert and paying attention. They are testing you literally to see how you will react and respond. Number 4, acquiring supplies. Purchasing or stealing explosives, weapons, ammunition, etc. This also includes acquiring military uniforms, decals, passes, flight manuals, badges, or ID cards, or any other way to control these items. This will help them carry out their act of terrorism. Number 5, suspicious persons that are out of place. People who don't seem to belong in the workplace, the neighborhood, or the business environment, or anywhere else that seems unusual. This includes suspicious border crossings, stowaways aboard a ship, or people jumping ship in a port location. Be aware of these people. Number 6, a dry or trial run. Putting people into position and moving them around according to their plan without actually committing the terrorist act is a great way for them to do a dry run to see how people respond, especially when it comes to security personnel. This is especially important when planning a kidnapping for a terrorist, but can also pertain to a bombing. An element of this activity could also include mapping out routes and determining things like the timing of traffic lights and the flow of traffic. Number 7, deploying assets. People and supplies getting into position to commit an act of terrorism. This is a person's last chance to alert authorities before the terrorist act occurs. If you miss these 7 signs of terrorism, terrorism will strike. Do not let that happen. In conclusion, security professionals can make a difference in detecting and preventing terrorism. A great career choice, in my opinion, in the private security industry would be to specialize in anti-terrorism assignments. You would never lack work in the future. The Department of Homeland Security has many, many opportunities for you. Will you accept the challenge? This concludes our lesson. We'll see you on the next one. Well, welcome to this lesson titled 5 Steps of Professionalism, Security Officer Training. We're going to talk about 5 very subtle but key elements that will increase your professionalism almost overnight. Step 1, treat everyone with respect. One of the most important characteristics of a successful professional is treating all workplace personnel with respect. You should always respect our peers, our subordinates, our superiors, and even visiting personnel to gain their trust. And you can never go wrong by addressing anyone as sir or madam. It will be well received. Step number 2, read your procedures and policies. In our ever-changing profession, the successful security officer is knowledgeable of current policies and procedures, but also periodically reviews those procedures for revisions and changes. This is an important step. There's no way anyone can be expected to memorize all the tasks you are performing. And do not rely solely on your memory. It may fail you more often than you think. Step number 3, always maintain a professional appearance. A security officer who wears a clean, pressed uniform, who displays high standards of personal grooming, and maintains duty gear and footwear in top condition commands more respect than officers who do not. Very simple. High standards of personal appearance may actually speak louder than words or actions when you are dealing with a difficult situation during your shift. Crooks actually fear officers who look sharp and have their act together. This is a great deterrent. Step number 4, report to work as scheduled. Maintaining a good attendance record is every bit as important as maintaining your overall job qualifications. Use your scheduled time off wisely by requesting time off in advance. This helps to keep unscheduled overtime to a minimum, lessens the negative impact on your supervisors and your coworkers, and is always a plus for your client. Step number 5, always seek self-improvement. Remember, never stop learning. Regardless of how long you've been employed in the security profession or any other profession, we can always improve. Remain aware of your personal skills and seek ways to better those skills and acquire new skills. There are a number of self-improvement seminars, learning programs, online training opportunities available for you to experience. Obviously, if you have taken this course, you are seeking self-improvement and additional skills. So, congratulations. Remember, the security officer who becomes content with his or her skills will soon get left behind. This concludes this lesson, and we'll see you on the next one. To this lesson titled Hidden and Unusual Weapons, an Officer Safety Guide. Now, this could be one of the most important lessons of the entire course, so pay close attention. There's a phrase in this industry you will hear often: safety is the number one priority. And we don't take that lightly in this profession. So I congratulate you. You've made a smart decision to invest just a few minutes of your time to learn about an extremely valuable topic, your personal safety. Now, what else could be more important than that? I compiled this simple guide with one goal in mind: to provide a valuable resource that describes the variety of unusual street weapons available to today's common criminal. And you, as a security professional, need to be aware of them for your safety. So let's talk about some key points when dealing with searching a suspect for weapons. Remember, you're dealing with street people for the most part when you're dealing with a suspect. They carry weapons for their own protection, so it's not uncommon to find weapons on a suspect. Always use your fingertips to probe for weapons in tight places, like the corners of a pocket or the front waistband of a suspect's belt or pants. When doing a search in a suspect, always be consistent. Do it the same way every time. Establish a routine so that you know you're not going to miss a hidden weapon. And take it serious every time, because again, your personal safety is at stake. Always stay alert. Getting lazy or complacent is dangerous. And remember, there's a lot at stake here. How would you feel if you missed a weapon on a suspect and it was later used on another officer, causing serious damage? That's tough to deal with. So, remember these key points when searching a suspect for weapons. Now let's talk about these weapons. We're going to show you in the first series here a display of some unusual firearms that are taken off the street by suspects. This first one is an actual flashlight that is a .380 gun. Now, it's a very small weapon, but this can be deadly at close range. The gun is loaded by you unscrewing the front lens, and then you insert a single round. What the back end of the flashlight is when it's screwed in, it closes the firing pin, which runs the length of the 2-inch shaft. So when the back end's unscrewed, the firing pin is freed, rendering the gun fire ready. This product can be made with a simple flashlight. I won't use any name brands, but very easy to use, very easy to make. So be aware when you find somebody with a flashlight that looks like this. Here's another small gun, and you can see here from the photo how small it is compared to an average size hand. These are small revolver type guns made by North American Arms. They're actually very popular weapons, and you can see here on the bottom some of the different display models with the different handles, and those handles actually fold up. So the gun's even smaller in some different styles. Very, very deadly at a close range. And here's a sample of that gun on a holster, on a chain, like a neck chain. This one is a .22 mini revolver, similar to the one we just saw. And again, you can buy these holsters online. Again, using the same model of gun, you can see how small it is. Fits right on the belt buckle, as shown here. There's an online company that's selling the belt buckle with a removable 5-shot mini revolver. Be aware of that when you're searching a suspect. Again, the flashlight firearm. This is taken from a Swiss dealer. Again, there's a plunger that's pulled and released, and this plunger strikes the primer, firing the weapon. Just a single shot. Zip gun. If you've never heard of a zip gun, zip guns are homemade firearms, usually made with small parts you can find at a local hardware store, believe it or not. Very simple to make, very easy if you think about it, but very deadly as well. This one is made of metal pipes and tubing, and it holds a .357 Magnum round. And basically, the bullet is inserted into the pipe, And when you slam the other piece of the metal into the pipe, it strikes the firing pin and discharges the weapon. Again, a zip gun can be easily disassembled into separate parts, and it doesn't look like a gun or usually identified as a weapon. This is another version of a small, what's called a bang stick. Again, it can fit on a chain in your pocket or around your neck. This one fires a 38 caliber or 38 special bullet. The ATF has classified this device as a weapon. So obviously you don't want to be caught carrying one yourself, but be aware of what it looks like and how it operates. Cell phone gun. This is scary. These guns are loaded by twisting the phone in half. Basically, the round fits in the top part of the phone where the readout screen is, and the bullet fires through the antenna portion of the gun by pressing the keypads numbers 5 and 8. They're being manufactured in Croatia and Yugoslavia. So these are some of the items too that the TSA looks for when people are traveling on an airplane, but it's one of the reasons they have you turn your phone on and off, because of the cell phone gun. Be very careful of this device. Another pen firearm, looks like a pen. This one was seized in Canada at the border. It's a fully functional single shot 22 caliber firearm, and this pen was actually concealed in a very unusual place on a female suspect, but they're becoming more and more common. And again, it looks like a writing instrument. Here's a creative use of the club, an auto theft device turned into a homemade shotgun. Again, the handle of the club was hollowed out to act as the barrel, and when the lock of the end of the club is pulled back, the tip of the shaft acts as a firing pin. Again, very creative. Got to be careful when dealing somebody that is in a vehicle with a club device. A tire gauge firearm. Again, another creative gun. This is a spring-loaded 22 caliber pistol that looks just like a tire gauge. To fire the weapon, the threaded top needs to be removed and the cartridge dropped in. Again, it's spring-loaded like many of these types of guns. But if you don't disassemble it, it looks like a normal tire gauge. Another cigarette case gun. This one is a very unique item. This was found on a web auction with a starting bid of $2,000. And this shoots a what's called a subsonic 22, and it's actually a silent round. So again, the square box is the silencer, and this item fits neatly in a cigarette case. Very well constructed and very dangerous. This is a knife and a 22 caliber combo firearm. Again, this was taken off a suicidal suspect in New Jersey. But if you can see, it looks like like a pocket knife, but it is an actual 22 caliber firearm as well. Sold as a novelty in the 1920s. Believe it or not, it's been around a long time. Again, another pen gun. This gun is commercially manufactured to look like a pen, and it fires a single shot, 25 or 22 or 32 caliber. As you can see, it bends at the middle. It has a trigger and a small barrel, transformed from a pen to a pistol in 2 seconds. Another mini firearm. This one's just showing the size of the actual firearm. Can fire a 45 caliber bullet, which is a strong impact bullet. And this one is called the Downsizer and is billed as the world's smallest pistol, about the size of a playing card, as you can see here in this photo. Again, another flashlight capable of firing a shotgun round. This was recently found in a search warrant in New Mexico gun shop. It's a fully functional Maglite flashlight and works much like a zip gun type setup where the safety pin is pulled and it acts as a firing lever, discharging the weapon through the end of the flashlight. Again, look for these creative uses of a gun by the common criminal. This is a hybrid knife gun. Very interesting weapon. Looks like a knife, but in the handle of the knife is a hidden gun barrel. It's a 1.75-inch gun barrel, and it shoots 22 caliber bullets. Very, very interesting weapon. And you can see it has somewhat of a trigger. You stab somebody with the front end and you shoot somebody with the back end. Very unique weapon. And again, we talked about zip guns earlier. This is a very simple style zip gun. You can get the parts, again, from any major hardware store in America. You can see they look like plumbing parts with a spring-loaded type lever. You put the bullet inside the tubing, you pull the lever back, and it shoots through the front nozzle, striking the bullet. Very deadly at a close range. And again, these particular zip guns were taken from a suspect who was caught shoplifting from a retail store. Let's talk about knives and blades, because these are one of the most common weapons carried by today's suspects. This is a motorcycle tank knife. Harley Davidson has a strong following, and this is a particular item that they sell and can be purchased to replace the normal dipstick on a Harley Davidson motorcycle. And the dipstick is located on the right side of the motorcycle, just under the seat. And as you can see, it's not a dipstick, but it's a very dangerous weapon if you don't know that it's there. A basic comb knife, a plastic weapon concealed as a comb. These are available on the internet and even at some flea markets. And this one is totally made of plastic, would not show up on an x-ray scanner. But more than that, it looks like a basic comb that an everyday person would carry in their pocket or their purse. Again, the handle is very dangerous. There's another version of that comb. Looks more of a brush. You pull the handle out and it turns into a dagger. Switchblade lighter. This is an actual lighter that was discovered on a shoplifter in New Jersey, and it works just like a lighter, but the backside of it has like a switchblade that reveals a 2-inch blade in a fully locked position. Be very careful when dealing with a basic lighter. You never know, it could turn out to be a sharp weapon. A basic key knife, very simple. This was discovered on a routine stop in the state of Maine. When the suspect saw the officer coming, he was arrested for some warrants, but no weapons were found during initial pat-down. But during the booking, the officer found a key knife hanging from a clip on the suspect's belt. An actual knife has a 1-inch blade, so it appears to be a regular looking key when you look at it on the surface, but it could be very dangerous in a combat situation. Here's one for the ladies, a lipstick knife. An Indiana school teacher confiscated this one from a 9-year-old student in her class. And again, when you look at it at first glance, you're going to see that it looks like lipstick, and nobody would even give it a second glance. And this knife is available through mail order catalogs. This one's a little scary, the bike seat knife. It's more of a dagger, actually, but it was discovered by an officer in Connecticut by a gangbanger that abandoned his bicycle and fled on foot during a street stop. The dagger, it consists of a 10-inch piece of steel that was machined to a spear-like point and welded on the end of this bicycle seat. So imagine if you're approaching a suspect on a bike, they pull out the seat, and they can really, really do some damage with a seat like this. This is a twine knife. Very simple. It looks like a ring almost if you wear it around your finger. Very easily to conceal the blade. And again, at a close range, this ring knife could do some serious damage to you. So be careful when dealing with these types of items in a small ring format. The good old umbrella dagger. This is a fully functional umbrella that comes with a 12-inch dagger in the handle. Now, we've always talked about seeing these before, but they actually do manufacture them, and they are being sold on the internet, and they're extremely dangerous. You can see the 12-inch dagger here. Again, a simple money clip that has a knife on it. When doing a pat down, you find a money clip. Double check to make sure there's not a blade attached to the clip. Anchorage, Alaska found this one as a calculator knife. So hidden in the side of the actual calculator was a small knife that could be pulled from the middle of the calculator. Obviously do some damage to you if you were not suspecting it. Again, another ring knife. This one is 3.5 inches with a 2-inch blade. And this item was sold on a leather sheath for greater concealment. But when you wear it on your hand and it looks like a normal ring from the casual observer, but you turn it around and that blade can do some serious damage. Another keychain folding knife. This is one found in California. This is basically what you would call a clip, like a keychain clip, or even a backpack clip. But again, has a knife blade attached to it that pulls out that you cannot see from normal use. So be very careful. Here's a cell phone with a razor blade in the battery compartment, 3.5-inch razor blade, and a handcuff key. Again, somebody finds this, they can open it up and they can use it on you, causing serious bodily injury. Be careful with those phones. And here's an interesting deck of cards. They're razor sharp on the edges. You can see this one in the photo. It's stuck in a bulletin board. They're sold as throwing cards, but they do look like the same size as a playing card. So be careful when dealing with something like this unique item. And a new weapon to watch for, it's called the blood-sucking pen. Now, it looks like a normal pen, but the pen is hollow and it's cut at an angle for quick, deep skin penetration. And obviously, if this penetrates a lung or your heart, it's meant to draw a lot of blood at the same time. Again, it looks like a normal pen. And again, here's some pens that aren't for writing or for schoolwork. Be careful with these types of pens, whether they're knives or they could be pepper spray. They can be used as a blunt object to cause serious damage to somebody at a close range. So be cognizant of these items. Many pens are disguised as hidden weapons. So, in conclusion, I hope that you found this lesson helpful and eye-opening. You got to remember, the crooks are getting more and more creative. You don't ever want to become a victim on or off the clock. And remember, you need to always have a plan for your safety and the safety of others.